Hi, Kai. Thanks for helping my project. Could you say a little bit about yourself?
My name is Kai, and I work for Anaplan. It's a financial planning and forecasting software, and I always been in software business for the last 20 years, and in this particular domain. But actually, I'm not actually a technical people. I'm from the finance background, and but I'm just always interested in technology. So Anaplan and this kind of software company are really fit in my profile and the personality. I'm good with number, and then mix with technology. So here where I am.
It sounds like you're in a good spot.
Yeah.
So what are some of your hobbies and outside of work interests?
Actually, I like to read and I like movies, and so that's why when you say do the interview, I mean it's very interesting. I think everyone should always have something outside their work and do something just wild. Yeah.
Well, what are
Yeah, I
some
watch a
things?
lot. I used to watch. Go ahead.
I was going to ask you, what are some things you like to read, and what are some movies you like to watch?
I used to watch when I came to United States about 30 years ago, and after college from China, and my English was not very good, but my especially speaking and listening, but my reading was okay. So at that time, I watch a lot of foreign movies because they have subtitles. So that kind of things I get my interest in the movies. And especially I like lots of a documentary. So that's why I thought your project is very interesting. One of my favorite documentary, I don't know, have you seen them? It's called 7 Up, 14 Up.
I
No?
have not. Seven Up and 14 Up?
It was made by a British documentary. They started like maybe 40 years ago, 30 or 40 years ago. So he interviewed a group of kids when they were 7 years old. So then he started to come back every 7 years. So now I think the very last one is called 56 Up or 56 Up, I think. So it's very interesting because that's prior to all these reality TV shows, right? But you see the people, just ordinary people, and they grow up and at every stage of our life, and what they think about their life and their perspective of people, and it's just very interesting. So that's why when you see your project, I thought, oh wow, this is pretty cool too.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
Yeah.
I mean, because I guess in my project, it'd be like interviewing people now to see what they think about us going back to the moon and if they knew about and stuff, and then maybe going back and interviewing them after we actually got there.
Exactly, that's what happened. So some people, says when they were 7 years old, they said that I want to be a scientist, I want to be whatever. And 50 years later, and when they ask again, so what do you think? And that was a very interesting perspective, I think. Yeah, time as a dimension, as our Anaplan said, as a dimension is very interesting.
Yeah. So, I mean, you got now before we go to the moon, then you got after we go to the moon, then you have when they take you first trip to space.
Right.
That would be like the third one. So.
Right, exactly. And see how much we change. We thought we're now changing, but we do. Sometimes when your life is, you have this so gradual change, you don't even notice. But when you look at your interview, some like a recording, even some of your writing, it's like, what the hell, I write this like 10 years ago, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But what are some of the things you like to read?
I don't read a lot, but anymore I listen to lots of a podcast. Recently, I've been really interested in this called Lex Freeman. Have you heard of
Oh,
it?
yes, I watched those Elon Musk interviews. And
Yeah,
he he also did one about like his daily routine, which I thought that was really fascinating too.
I haven't seen, I mean, he has so many of them. So I just found him like, a few months ago. So I've been catching up. He has something about programming and AI stuff are really fascinating. Yeah.
Yeah, and he does have a very methodical approach for sure.
Yeah. 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 And he's also very open-minded. And also he tried to translate those language in a kind of people like us. We're not like, at least for me, I'm not like a serious programmers and in those area or physics, but he tried to, interview these people and explain in a way and we can relate and understand. I thought that is a gift, I think. Yeah.
Well, was there any particular Lex Friedman podcast that really stood out in your mind as being really good?
Yeah, there was one. Let me think. There's one about the programming. I thought it was really good because I'm not serious programming, but I'm really good with Excel. And because my previous software company, our interface is our GUI is Excel.
Hmm.
So, and I also uh, um, um, uh, uh, um, put a lot of my thought. For example, if I want to think of something, I actually put into Excel. I thought it's the best way to organize your thought. So there's one, I forgot what he interviewed. It's like a computer scientist. He actually considered Excel as one of the best programming language. I thought that was a really, really interesting thought. I never thought of that, but it is. I mean, people are doing, I mean, there are not, it's something you actually can see immediately and attract lots of non-programmer thinking about in a matrix way. So I thought that was a very interesting thought.
And to create very formal relationships between pieces of information.
Exactly, exactly. Yeah, so it's kind of like you don't have to have like a serious programming experience, but it gives you sort of break down things in a logical way or relate or whatever. Not only the number, could be text or whatever, right? So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's really neat. No other tool has really progressed to the same degree as the spreadsheet. I mean,
Right, exactly. Yeah.
it's like so fundamental, and so many people use it for so much. Finance, and then planning, and then just creating little simple databases of stuff.
Right.
It's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, Akai, I had a few questions about space I wanted to ask you.
Sure. Yeah.
So did you know that NASA was planning to send astronauts forward to the moon for the first time since 1972?
Right. Yeah, I heard of it, and yeah, I think that's very exciting. And I don't know why we wait another 30 years to do that.
Well, I mean, that was like 50 years ago, actually.
50 years
72.
ago. Oh, wow.
Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. I was born in 68, so I'm 50 now, 54, so that's why 50 years ago. Yeah.
Well, I'm trying to think of what would have been the first space event that you remember seeing growing up?
Well, definitely it's not on the moon, and oh yeah, it's the space shuttle. Yeah, I think at that time I was still in China, I believe. Yeah.
So I'm kind of curious in how you found out about NASA going back to the moon, because when I ask people at Starbucks or at the mall or on the street, only about 20% of them know that we're planning to send people back to the moon. So I'm kind of curious in what you pay attention to that maybe other people don't.
Oh, I guess I just read on the news somewhere on Google News, or that's my daily. I also subscribe to New York Times, so I think just one of them mentioned that. I remember maybe it's in the just either the Google News or New York Times. Not a particular. I'm not a particular like the space enthusiastic whenever, and it just happened. I read somewhere, I guess. Yeah.
And what what do you hope we get from going to the moon that would make it worthwhile for you?
Um, Actually, I thought of this. I was thinking about what exactly, because we already got everything, we need. And uh, I thought that there's one interesting things about the space. I mean, this is probably, I don't know if it makes sense or not. I thought that the software business, I've been in the software business for many years. And there's one thing, our kind of software are very forgiving. We have a lot of bugs. And I made a lot of bugs too, but there's not too much consequence. And then the user reported, and then you fix it, right? And we usually actually ship something we know have a bugs actually, but we know there's a consequence, and I mean we know the consequence is probably not so bad. I mean nobody's going to die if you have a bug. And then, if you're diligent enough, responsible enough, you feel like, I got a 90% right, and then I can just turn around and fix it if you see a problem. I think all this space problem almost have like a zero chance you have to make a mistake, especially you have to put the people on the moon or on the Mars. And I don't know how they do that. I mean, especially involve software and almost like you gotta have a bugs. And I'm hoping, this kind of things are eventually, we have this driverless cars and all these things. I think that this kind of like putting people on the moons and putting on the space, and it's kind of leap of a faith for people have to be very creative, has to be, enormous of a resource probably cannot afford by a private company or even a private person. I guess Elon Musk is the exception. But there's something how do you do something like a $0 or close to $0? I'm just hoping, by doing this, and there's some method or methodology or, even a testing method or something, and it can get rid of most of the bugs in the software. I don't think that will happen, but it's a journey worth taking. Yeah, I'm just hoping we can learn something by doing this space program, and our software business can learn from them, and so we don't have so many bugs.
Well, I mean, I think one key about eliminating bugs is to keep it simple. Like the simpler the intended functionality is, the easier it is to do comprehensive testing.
Right.
But the more open something is, and the more complex, I mean, it becomes so difficult to test all the possible configurations and situations and things like that.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing is, and this is just one, right? And the biggest thing is, we got the moon, and then eventually we're going to go to the Mars. And I'm just thinking humanity needs something bigger and not riskier, but needs something because we're so polarized. Now you cannot talk about anything. Actually, this is what from the next things I was riding a bike this weekend, they talk about this. I totally agree, is we're so polarized and we cannot talk about anything without, political size things. And hopefully going to the moon, going to the Mars is something for humanity, and everyone at least agree it's something good for humanity and something grand and something, take us to see something beyond ourselves, kind of united us, and see something positive, not like you turn on the TV and see all those crimes, wars, and all those things. We need something positive. I thought going to the moon, going to the Mars, and are something positive for the humanity.
Yeah, that's the way I feel too. But I would tell you that our feelings on this are not universal. There's some people that feel like why are you spending all these resources to go to space, to go send the astronaut to the moon, when we have all these problems on Earth, like global climate change and poverty and all this. And I was just wondering, how do you approach that type of conversation?
Well, if I like say from debate argument perspective, I would say, look, how much time we waste on Facebook, on Twitters, how much time we waste on all those, mindless movies and all this stuff, right? I mean, if you argue that why we spend, how much time we spend each day on the Twitters, I mean, I hate myself. I spend time on these things, right? I mean, you can, and it's the same thing. And if we worry about really truly worry about the poverty and that, we reduce our time to spending on these things, and then we can do something great. But that's just, it's not that you can, I don't think that's the reason, because we have the poverty or all the other problems. And if we do want to solve this problem, we should focus and do this. And it's not because we go to the moon or go to the Mars. So
I
that
know
was my argument.
I think a lot of people feel like we spend so much on space, but when you consider that's less than 0.5% of the federal budget,
Right.
you're like,
Yeah.
that's like 99.5%. That's something else.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
Well, whenever you think about the future of humanity, what does it look like to you?
Well, I'm a little bit worried, I have to say. And I read a book quite a while ago. The guy, I forgot his name. Keep going. Have you heard of the Brief History of Humankind?
Well, I've heard of A Brief History of Time by Stephen
Yeah.
Hawking.
No, that's
No.
there's a Jewish guy, and A Brief History of Humankind.
A
And
Brief History of Humankind. Okay.
yeah, and Homo sapien, and that's the other name. And he also have another book about, this is about, he's a really fascinating person. He related
Oh, are you thinking about like Sapiens and
yeah.
yeah, okay. I think his name is like Noah
Yeah,
Yoval
yes.
or something like
Yeah,
that.
exactly. Yeah, that's him. And he also wrote a book about what's the future like. And I think one of the things is, if we are not careful enough, because one of the point he made is we're changing, the speed of change are much faster right now than 100 years ago. For the past 30 years, and what the human produced and accelerate all this stuff are, if you have a measurement of speed, and we're accelerated. And the problem is we're hitting not the limit. We may kind of all those AI, and there are lots of moral issue and potential, not a limitation, and maybe we are potentially out of our own control if we are not careful enough. So I'm hopeful, but at the same time, and we really need to, as humanity, we have to slow down, have to think a little bit deeper, and set up some ground rules before we venture out to just do the best we can. I mean, do whatever we need, and we may run into some problems.
Yeah, it is difficult. We're creating a world that we can't live in type of situation.
Right. Yeah.
So if it was safe and affordable, would you take a trip to space?
Yes, definitely. Yeah.
How far would you go? Would you go just to orbit, to the moon? Would you immigrate to Mars?
That's a little bit scary. I don't know, but for sure, to orbit. I would love to go to the orbit and go to the moon. And yeah, I'm a very sociable person. I like people around. Sometimes I my picture go to the moon. It's like that. What's that movie by The Martian, right? It's kind of lonely if you go there by yourself.
Well, I mean, but Elon Musk is talking about trying to build a 1 million-person city on Mars by 2050.
Uh, well, it could, but I'm not that optimistic that we actually can get there. Maybe, yeah.
But I mean, I think 1 million people is enough. I mean, you really need more than 1 million people to not feel lonely.
Yeah, the Earth is beautiful. I would love. There are so many places I still want to visit on the Earth.
Oh, for example, where? Like which
Well,
places?
I actually like to go to Middle East. I just I know there are lots of there were some like good movies from Iran. I thought that it's I mean, if you just read the news, it seems like a really backward and what do you say? It's a you know it's very different when you see the movie and you see the people are really actually very cultured and very sophisticated. They maybe their material life is not as advanced as many advanced country, but it's a there are lots of very interesting people and food and everything. I thought it's a very contrast to if you just read the news or newspaper and so that's why I want to find out what it looks like.
I know.
Yeah.
People are great, but then you have the government.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
But well, Kai, I know we talked about a lot of things, but was there any particular thing that you wanted to talk about, or did you have any questions for me?
Yeah, I think what do you think? I mean, as a space enthusiast, and if I throw the question back to you, do you want to go to the Mars? What do you
Yeah.
want to get from when you go to the Mars? What the difference to go to Mars versus moons? Just of course, their distance are different. What?
Yeah, I know it's a challenge. Like you said, there's so many places on Earth that I still would like to see. And
Yeah,
Earth is such an amazing planet with its oceans and
yeah,
islands and
yeah,
jungles and
right.
I mean Antarctica and
Yeah,
Alaska and all sorts of places. So I definitely like to see more of Earth. Um, I think the moon and Mars would be great. Not for any particular articulable reason, but I think it would be cool to be a part of seeing humanity kind of push out into the rest of the solar system and
mhm,
beyond. I
mhm.
think it'd be very rough at the beginning.
Right.
You would have to really enjoy pain a lot to be one of those first people to
Yeah,
go out there. But at the same token, it's somewhat fulfilling to think that you might be the beginning of the next phase of humanity.
yeah.
That there will be future generations living in places we can't even imagine now, and
Uh-huh.
that somehow we were part of making that happen. I just
Right.
that's kind of
Mhm.
a really enticing
Yeah.
thing.
Mhm.
That make you feel like that. I mean, I like my life. It's
Right.
wonderful, but
Yeah.
it's kind of cool for it to have some type of historical purpose too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm really envy you to, switch the career and, to do something you really enjoy and, with your passion. So you really stole the path on lots of unplanned people.
I I hope everybody gets to some point where they have a
Right.
dream and they're able to go and follow that dream. So I
Right.
think
Right.
those two things are good. There's a lot of people that don't know what they want to do with their lives, which I think is
Right.
okay. You
Yeah.
don't need to know. But
Yeah.
then there's people that do know what they want to do, but they feel like they
Right.
can't. Those
Yeah.
people really should figure out a way to make it happen.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
We should invite you back, in like 6 months, a month, then tell us something, how do you
Yeah, I'd like that. Kind of talk about and some of the things that they really emphasize in terms of communication, leadership,
uh-huh.
professional characteristics
Yeah.
are actually beneficial for every organization.
Right.
And it's just kind of neat. I think there's definitely, in addition to the exciting space stuff, there's
Yeah.
also this other organizational bit that I think would be of interest to people as well.
Maybe you should make a movie of this interview at the end, right?
Maybe. I mean, for me right now, I'm just struggling to keep it up. I haven't missed a day yet since I started the project. And
Great.
I have until the end of 2024, which is when I was counting down to. So
Maybe I should hook up you. I have to make, I use your material, make my movie then.
that would be awesome. That would be great.
Yeah, it's fun. Yeah.
Well, Kai, thank you so much again. And I hope our paths cross and we stay in contact.
Sure. Yes, I do. Yeah.
If you ever come to Houston, let me know.
Yeah, maybe I take my girl. My girl actually wants to be an engineer, so maybe I should take her over there.
We need a lot more engineers. So that's great that she's interested in that.
Yeah, definitely. She like building stuff. She's in a robotics team right now, and we're very excited to start to building stuff.
I mean, if you could send me some of the things that she's done, I would be interested in just seeing it for my own personal, getting excited about the future.
Okay, cool. All right.
Okay, well, take care. Have a good rest of your day.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.
Nice to see you again, Nathan.
Likewise.
Bye.